Welcome back to Zelda 2. Last time we got a boots, and that lets us walk over some water tiles, but not the entire ocean. I feel like I should clarify, it is only on the overworld. Unfortunately, this is not an answer to death pits, though it would be nice. Oh god. Please are just jumping at us. Also, while we're in this section, I think, we might have... I said the Medora region, was not the only swampland, but I also think I remembered this area having a swamp, and it doesn't, so... I may have actually been wrong, there might just be the one swamp. Which, speaking of swamp, also not a kind of water that you can traverse more easily with the boots, you still move sluggishly through that. Which you'd think would be like the main water you could get through with boots. But nope. Marsh still sucks.
So were those the Dongos? Not these red guys, the little four-legged guys.
Yeah, no. The guy that kind of stand up. I have to look over the enemy list real quick. I don't remember them listing to Dongos, though.
Yeah, I recognize the red guys. Those are red Aramers from Ghosts and Goblins and later Goblin Quest.
Also, yes, we do have a maze of ocean tiles.
Fuck off.
No, there's no way to know where we need to go. If you just want to go to the palace, it's actually pretty easy, but, you know, if you want, see this heart over here, you do need to figure out which tiles you can walk over.
It's like, blind mazes can work sometimes, but something about that one just really pissed me off.
I think it's because, like, you can walk over the water tiles, so why are there just those water tiles that you can't?
You've probably seen these guys before, but I love them.
Yeah, so we are on the Palace on the Sea, or personally I just usually call it Ocean Palace, that's easier. Although technically we already had an Island Palace, so...
Man, you're really playing fast and loose with your no-hit run there, huh?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the little snake guys are Nerus, and I was about to give up on finding the four-legged dudes, but apparently they are the River Zora.
No.
Which, not...
I'm gonna say no, that one's wrong.
Yeah, completely out of their element from the first game, where they were just in water.
You know, like rivers.
Now they're just on their... not on their hind legs. It's weird. Alright, so anyway, this is a fairly simple palace. Also, you might be wondering, hey, it's still showing an experience value next to attack even though 8's the max value, so what happens if you get that much experience? It's just an extra life, so that is basically there for if you've maxed out your experience and you're still having trouble, which is entirely possible, although, man, at that point, you have to grind for an extra life. I feel like it'd just be easier to go and find the ones on the overworld. Although for endgame stuff, that might be a little complicated, or difficult to do. But also, so would grinding. Anyway, thank goodness, these are just regular wizards now.
Mm-hmm.
they just look like wizards, and not the KKK. And we can just stab these ones. Just a much better situation overall. Alright, so, topic of the day this time around is actually going to be a hack that I'm not using. It's Zelda 2 Redux by Shadow 1333, which is kind of actually an extensive one. oh god, this room sucks. Same reason as the falling block room before, but I got less lucky with this one. Zelda 2 Redux is basically just an attempt to add some quality of life stuff and change up the visuals a little bit, make a few things more consistent with later Zelda games in terms of, like, visuals and terminology. And yeah, it's also there to kind of balance out the game a little bit, make enemies a little less bad. Of course, since I'm not using it, I'm not super well versed in the hack itself outside of just the changelog of it. But it seems like it'd be pretty solid. And on top of that, there is also another, like, female character hack. There's a couple for Zelda 2, including one where you get to play as Zelda, but there's actually one that works with Zelda 2 Redux, The Adventure of Lady Link, which gives you, like, a design that's actually pretty unique. It's like a black hair ponytail type character.
Oh.
Which, yeah, usually people just go for, like, a character who already exists in Zelda, like, I don't know, Saria or something, or... Lately, it's definitely been a lot of Linkle, which I don't necessarily mind, but also the reason I like the character hacks is because I don't want the same character every time. I kind of like the visual differences, and look, Link's an iconic character, so I know I'm weird, but, like, I don't know. I like changing things up from game to game. But yeah, like, the Adventures of Lady Link did seem pretty cute. Main issue, did not have a Zelda 1 equivalent, which is the main thing. Zelda 1 and 2 both have Saria hacks, and I like the consistency of that, since these are supposed to be the same character. But unfortunately— oh god! Yeah, no, there's no compatibility for the Saria hack and Zelda 2 Redux, which, yeah, there's actually enough difference in how that game's constructed that you can't just patch over this character into that hack, which, you know, in some games is totally a thing you can do. Please just... Could you come down to my level? Fine, whatever. I can kill you instantly anyway, it's fine.
Before we get too far away from Linkle, I was going to mention... I did really like Linkle in Hyrule Warriors, but mainly because of her personality. Of just...
yeah.
Being in the right place at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wouldn't get a whole lot from a Linkle replacement mod, because her design is just fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it works for stuff like, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I haven't really played with that mod, but it does look like she's fairly expressive in that one. Again, you don't get the full personality because she actually talked. She was not an exact Link replacement in Hyrule Warriors. She had her own side story where she thought she was the hero of legend. Where did we go? Fake wall. But yeah, no, she does actually speak and has a personality, so not quite the same thing.
To be fair, Link's personality in Breath of the Wild isn't that far removed from Linkle.
You know, yeah.
He's just as fucking weird.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild is fun because, like, you don't really do that much out of the ordinary in terms of, like, Zelda stuff overall, but because the world actually reacts to it, Link does come across as more of the murder hobo type of guy of just, why are you going around doing these things? No, wait, all the parodies were right. Why are you just going into rooms and breaking pots? That's weird. Also, speaking of how this game looks, weird pivot, but whatever, I don't think we mentioned this in the first game's LP, but the first two Zeldas actually came out on the Famicom disk system, which, as you might imagine, is a peripheral that we never got over in the US, but it used floppy disks instead of cartridges, which basically just let games get away with a bit more than they'd be able to on the cartridge. So, you know, easier time saving, while there were load times they were able to load, higher quality images and sounds. Apparently, though, that version still has little dots on the sprites for these guys, so clearly it has the same problem of loading the wrong thing, in part, but yeah. Also, admittedly, the sound quality is mostly better, but some of the sound effects I'm actually kind of glad they couldn't really carry over into the cartridge version, but I bring this up because I learned recently that this palace does actually have something in the US version that the Japanese version doesn't. If this were the Japanese version, we'd actually be fighting Germafencer, the boss of Medoro Palace. But instead there's a new guy. Which is honestly kind of a surprise, all things considered. Also, yes, we came all the way out here for a key. Time to wrap all the way back. But yeah, this version does actually get a unique boss, which... I did learn that thing recently. If I had to guess, they probably would have added this palace's new boss to the Game Boy Advance version. Because there was a Game Boy Advance version of Zelda 2, I feel like they'd probably add that. Oh god, one of these rooms. Oh, is this the one where I actually had to double back? Yeah, okay, so I had to double back because of the respawning enemies. I just could not get through here without resetting the room after opening the door. We still got a wizard to kill, but yeah, no, there was something about opening that door and proceeding where I'd always take a hit, so I tried something new and it worked out. Enemies didn't clutter up to me anymore. It's fine. Yeah, you don't really ever hear about the Game Boy Advance version, probably because, this is a perfectly serviceable version if you're able to play it. Game Boy Advance version probably has similar problems to Game Boy Advance ports, which is screen size. I've been saying that a lot lately, but yeah, no, that's kind of significant.
I didn't even realize there was a Game Boy Advance port.
We got a flute. This is for the River Devil. Anyway, but yeah, I feel like the Game Boy Advance version is kind of when... It was about the time period where people kind of stopped liking this game. Because this game wasn't, universally hated when it initially came out. I feel like people liked Zelda 1 more, but as far as I can tell, it was seen as a decent sequel to the first game. Nowadays, the reputation is, oh, this is the worst game. Well, I may be overstating it. I don't know the pulse of what people have to say about this one, but there's a lot more negativity around it because it's difficult and it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just from seeing kind of the review scores of the era, you can at least see that reviewers didn't like it as much, and I feel like that's probably then around the same time non-critics were also like, hey, wait a sec. This game punted me into the stratosphere. I don't appreciate that.
Yeah, older gamers, a lot of them at least, just looked at difficulty differently. The more difficult something was, the more fun it was to try and do it. This is probably going to be meaningless to most people, but for Blast Corps, one of the more infamous things about that game is the vehicle called the Backlash, which is very difficult to use to destroy things. You have to, drive it backwards and hit things with the back of the vehicle instead of the front. And you have to use that for, so many levels in the game. And, once the game got its cult following and they were able to interview some of the devs, one of the devs was like, Backlash was my favorite vehicle to play with. The more difficult and harder it was to use, the more fun it was. That's just how things used to be for a long time with games.
Mm-hmm.
And, my take is, obviously there's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Some people are going to prefer difficulty, some people are going to not prefer difficulty. There's no right way to do it.
Yeah. Though I definitely prefer more modern things where there's a bit more of an understanding of what the average person is able to do. And, you know, you can definitely have a game kind of more thought out for people who, you know, kind of want to learn this thing, but, like, not necessarily in the same way that you'd learn things in this kind of game, because this is extremely a trial and error game. You're going to be seeing Ganon a lot if you're, you know, playing this on your own. But yeah, I feel like there's a bit more tightness to difficulty nowadays. And then oftentimes, there's also just the point where it's like, okay, here's the super secret final level for people who really know this game.
Yeah, I prefer that approach, too. That's the fun thing with the, like, modern Mario and Mario-adjacent platformers. Where, like, this game is easy to 99%. But we're gonna make you work for that fucking last one.
Yeah, I'm mostly fine with that. Except when they turn you invisible for a flagpole, but yeah, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I don't mind most of this game's approach to difficulty, except for the fact that Iron Knuckles just react to you way too quickly. Most enemies are at least decently, like, paced, but yeah, you get to Blue Iron Knuckles and they just do a lot and they defend very quickly, so I get what they're going for. It does create kind of an interesting back and forth in the sword fighting. Like I said early on, this is definitely one of the few Zelda games where they're very concerned with just the act of sword fighting in and of itself, and I like the concept they were going for. Like, for being an NES game, I do think it's pretty interesting the way they handled combat. It's way too overtuned on their end. On the bright side, at least now I can kill an Iron Knuckle in 3 hits. They have it coming. Alright, are we at the boss? Okay, so, this is Goomba, but spelled with 2 O's instead of a U. So this guy's notable for having a very high damage output. Like, he'd probably kill me in, like, 2 shots at life level 3, so, yeah, he's here to check your HP. He's fairly simple otherwise, but yeah, no, if you're not careful, he will destroy you. Thankfully, though, we also have a high damage output, so that fight went quickly, as did most of this episode. You get through stuff so quickly when you don't actually have to visit towns. Anyway, we got 2 things maxed out. Next time, we continue on to the southern part of Hyrule. But not like that South Hyrule, a different South Hyrule.
North-South Hyrule.